I really value the moments in life where time seems to slow down. It's not like it actually does. It's just like you're being present with yourself and you're not caught up in all of these ideas for things that you need in your life. Maybe you just came out of something absolutely crazy or chaotic, unhealthy. Maybe you came out of a relationship and you're just trying to cool down from all of the crazy shit, all of the flames, all of the fucked upness. You maybe were dizzied in that relationship. Maybe you were gaslighted. Maybe you were led to believe a bunch of things. And it just caused you to be dissociated and disoriented. And now you're regrounding with yourself. And maybe it's quiet now. Maybe that quietness actually feels different from the way that it previously did. Maybe the way that it previously was that you tried to fill your life with a bunch of things because you thought that you couldn't handle the peace. You thought that you couldn't handle the silence and the stillness. But now you're seeing it differently. Now you're like, wait a second. Do I need to chase all of these things that I'm so used to chasing? Could I actually just lay down in my bed in total silence and stillness, even if it's just a minute, even if it's just 5 minutes, even if it's just a second to take a breath in? We go through a lot in life, and oftentimes we put ourselves through a lot. It's not just about going through a lot. It's not just about you saying, my God, I just went through so much. Maybe it's also that you put yourself through so much because it's comfortable and familiar in terms of repetition compulsion. But now here you are in this moment of stillness, and maybe you're starting to realize the magic of this moment. Maybe it seems like time is slowing down because you're actually sitting with yourself and everything that you've been through. And because of that, you're like, wait a second, I don't want to just jump into the next thing. I don't want to just dive into the next relationship. And it's not about waiting, it's about sitting with yourself. It's about sitting with what it is that you're actually feeling rather than trying to fill that void up with something else. Where you are is magical. It doesn't matter what it seems like. It doesn't matter what it doesn't seem like. It doesn't matter what it is that you're used to. This moment right now is vastly magical. And it's fascinating because recently I was traveling and I was on a plane. I'm not going to say where I was going. Well, it doesn't really matter. I was in Vegas and I was traveling somewhere. And the fascinating thing is that I was on this shaky plane because there was turbulence. And I just started to think about it. I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy. I would like to look at every single moment of life in a much more wholesome way. I would like to be so much more present in life. I would like to be so much more congruent to every single moment. It's so easy to get caught up in exhaustion, to get caught up in thought and noise and all of these things that you might feel like you need or things that you need to be doing. And I just, for a glimpse, I just thought about it and I was like, wow, there is still so much that I take for granted in every single moment, in this moment of stillness. One of the most fascinating things about healing a dysregulated nervous system is learning to appreciate peace and stillness and the present moment and being grounded and not needing stimulation, just being present to the moment. And so the turbulence came on the airplane, and we literally had just taken off. And it was actually my first time seeing the big dome in Vegas, which was really cool. But then the turbulence started going on, and I just kind of started having thoughts and everything. I was like, it's crazy how transient life is. It's crazy how transient everything is. And there's so much noise, there's so many things, there's so much future focus, which is okay. None of this is good or bad or right or wrong. It's just what is. Sometimes we set intentions and visions for the future, and that's fine. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, I've been through a lot in life, and I've put myself through a lot based on what it is that I've been through. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff because boundaries are important to me. But I was realizing that I was just taking the moment for granted because I was so focused on the future. I was so focused on getting to that next point. It's like that next point can somehow save me from this because somehow, for some reason, there is discontentment in this moment. There's something about this moment that something within me is resisting because I want the next moment, because I think that the next moment will have the answer to my life. And the more I heal, the more I learn about myself and about my desires, the more I realize that the present moment is filled with magical energy that just transforms my perception of what I believe life is all about, which is being present to the moment, being congruent with that, and not trying to seek anything in the future. Don't get me wrong, it's fine to have goals, it's fine to have aspirations and long term endeavors and passions and purposes. But I feel so often for myself, at least, that sometimes I get so caught up in what I think the future needs to be that I miss out so much on the present moment. And not just the present moment, but the intricacy, the delicacy, the deliciousness of the present moment, of taking into consideration this present moment reality, the stillness of it, the joy of it, the enjoyment of it, the textures, the everything. Like this present moment is so wild. And for so long, I seeked noise that I didn't really need. And now I'm realizing that, like, just being present to the moment, it's more so that I was seeking the future. And I realize after all of these years of reflecting on the past, something that I wish was different years ago. And I'm not hard on myself for it. I'm totally gentle with myself because I can only ever be where I am. I could have only ever been where I was. There's no need to be hard on myself. It's just what do I want now moving forward? Oh, I don't want to worry about things that I'm now realizing I don't have to because it's actually not that big of a deal. And just being congruent to the moment, being present to the moment, having a regulated nervous system, and approaching life from the standpoint of not only joy but also like stoic, like realizing that a majority of things actually are not that important and they really don't matter. And to understand that, you can have experiences in life that show you consistently over and over and over again that a vast majority of the things that we lose sleep over really don't fucking matter. And then with that, just continuing to download stillness in the present moment and joy and just like honestly like appreciation for the detail of life. It's like a walk, not just a work, a walk of art. It's just like creation in every single moment, between self and object, or between self and other, I, thou. Like just life is wild. It's so magical, and being present with that is just something of marvel. And I don't mean Marvel with like the superheroes and everything. I just it's marvelous. Life is marvelous. And I want to end off with something that will, I think, put things into a bit more context. When you understand that you determine yourself, that you are the creator of your story, and I know that that gives off potentially cringy vibes of like, what is it? Main character shit. It's really more so just like recognizing that you determine yourself, I determine myself. There's nobody that has authority over me. I choose what it is that I want to do, and it's within healthy means. There's nothing dangerous about it. But just recognizing that within this moment of stillness, of silence, as long as I'm congruent with myself, I will be doing what it is that I want to, despite whatever it is that anybody else has to say about it. Because choosing what it is that I want is most important to me, because that would lead to a life of fulfillment. Being out of congruency with what it is that I want will lead to a life of unfulfillment and even potentially resentment, whether it's towards myself or other people. This is why understanding boundaries, healthy boundaries, individuation, differentiation, specifically in Freudian psychology, psychoanalytic theory, is so important to actually become an individual that thinks for the self, that feels for the self, that chooses for the self, boundaries in that space, and not being influenced by anybody else. And not only that, but like if you're going to listen to anybody else, understand why exactly you're listening to anybody else. Because the likelihood that they don't actually know you and can't actually offer you accurate, healthy guidance might be concerningly high. So it's really all about just being present with yourself, being in this moment of stillness, creating whatever necessary stillness you need to for yourself to move forward in a way that is congruent with what it is that you actually want. And the reason why this all ties back into everything is because from everything that I've learned, in order to make the absolute best decisions that you can for yourself, you have to know yourself really well. Because if you've gotten used to saying yes to other people when what you really wanted to do is say no, you're not getting more in touch with yourself. You're getting more in touch with defense mechanisms and trauma responses. You're calcified or stuck in a childhood pattern, repetition compulsion. And it just leads to the same thing over and over again. Fear, doing things because you're afraid rather than doing things because you actually want to. Nobody else knows you better than yourself. That's the reality of it. Nobody else can know you better than yourself. And allowing anybody else to gaslight you into believing that they do know you, no.